Welcome to our podcast. This is a true, raw, unscripted insight into our lives captured from our intimate diary entries whilst we're figuring out this path of travelling the world and building our own businesses. On this week's episode,
even had and went and met with some Balinese people to see if they would help. Got that desperate.
But I never gave a shit.
So cool and so engaged. It just blows my mind.
It's definitely action. That's the key word, is action. They've gone all in, like literally gone all in, spent all this money, all this time, this effort, and then they've just flopped.
Dodgy. Well, they weren't dodgy, but they weren't by any means customer ready. Kind of the weight of everything was lifting off of my shoulders. I could just felt like everything was basically clicking into place.
Hi guys, and thank you so much for tuning in to episode 3. We're currently still in Bali. We've got 1 week left of our stay here now. We're still surrounded by chickens, so apologies for the noises you might hear throughout this. And we're trying to work out where we go next. We're thinking Vietnam. Hanoi seems like it's good weather this time of year. So in the next couple of days, we will book our flight and probably get a 3 to 4 week Airbnb there. Now, on the last episode, we showed Lucy going through quite a difficult conversation where she was struggling with TETTA, clearly a bit frustrated about how things were going, as it's difficult to start and get things, off the ground. So we thought no better place to start than by giving an update on TETTA after just a few short days. Okay, Lucy. So on the last episode, it was quite clear that you were going through some struggling times. You were sighing like every other word. And I find it quite amazing that on the evening of that episode, the following happened.
Yeah, oh bless. Fantastic. This is exactly awesome. Oh, amazing. Love it. Will do. Okay, perfect. Let me get some bits ordered for you and I'll let you know. Alright, yeah, no worries. Okay, alright. Well, enjoy your lunch. I'll speak to you later. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye. So that's the company that I spoke to earlier, the really nice ladies. So there's like 4 of them. They have all different types of machinery, do all sorts. She said, the girls have looked at your website, they're just so keen, they really, really want to do it, kind of like anyway. And what else did she say? She said, send us enough product so that we could get 10 prototypes sent back to you, we'll do that for free.
How do you feel?
Yeah, okay.
Please?
Yeah.
Now, what's the latest on TETTA?
So I spent the day speaking to potential people to support us. I even had and went and met with some Balinese people to see if they would help. Got that desperate. But no, that's silly. So keeping everything in the UK makes much more sense. So I ended up having a conversation with a small company. It's basically a couple of mums that run a sewing company. They do lots of bridal stuff, lots of homeware stuff, and just absolutely clicked with one of the girls called Rachel. She completely got it. Her best mate unfortunately had breast cancer a couple of years ago and they're the same age, so she completely understood and we just clicked immediately. And it's amazing that you can be basically on the other side of the world but have a conversation that good and things can change that quickly. So we had about an hour's conversation. She went away and spoke to the owner of the company. They're called Crazy Chameleons. It's a really cute company. And they came back. She phoned me back, and that's the clip that Ross managed to capture. And like with every word she said, the weight of everything was lifting off of my shoulders. I could just felt like everything was basically clicking into place, because now I know how much it's going to cost and exactly what they need. And through that one bit of action and answer, I now know exactly what I need to do going forward. So we've now got prototypes with them. And just everything's fallen into place, really, which means that I feel a lot clearer and therefore a lot happier. And also it's nice to have someone at the end of the phone that completely gets it and is on board.
Yeah.
And someone that I can really bounce off, I suppose.
Yeah. And what about the kits? What about the other side?
Yeah, so, and then the other side is that 25 of our TETTA tassel kits have been sent out to the girls that said they wanted to be involved. And I mean, that alone is amazing, I think, that we've had more than 25. We only had the capacity to send 25, so we've had to let a couple of people down. But the fact that there are people out there that want to get crafty and get involved and be part of this little group, you know, I was thinking that was going to be a really difficult thing, but I put out one Instagram story and one post, which I've since taken down actually because it didn't aesthetically look very nice and I was getting inundated with inquiries. Basically one post, and I've had these people come back and they're just so cool and so engaged. It just blows my mind.
And what's the vision of that group?
So the group is kind of the second half of TETTA, which is where we've got girls that are dealing with breast cancer in any capacity. You know, it might be that their mate has it, their mum has it, or they have it, and they've got some time to get crafty. So our tassel kits have everything that the girls need to make tassels, which is a nice activity in itself. There are also some nice treats. So we've partnered up with a company called Blom cards, and they're these little business card sized kind of like cue cards that have things written on them. They're written by a psychologist to help you from a mental health point of view. So we've been able to partner with them. We've given out some Blom cards, and then Altoria, who is an influencer that we know, has very, very kindly donated through some brands that she partners with some amazing perfumes and face masks and treats for the girls. She's just been touched actually by a young chap that's been diagnosed with cancer and wanted to get involved. So they're goodies and everything the girls need to make tassels. They make the tassels and send them back to us, and where possible we stitch them onto the garments, which are then sold.
Okay. And how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I feel a lot better. Like this morning, I've been able to sit down and actually get on with working on the community and getting our social kind of pipeline of content up together. And I'm really excited. So it's 1:30 here, so it's too early. But at about 4:00 today, I'm going to set up the WhatsApp group with the 25 girls, and I've got some things to go to them. And I don't know, I'm just really excited to start properly engaging with these girls and just hear what they say. I know that how it is at the moment probably isn't how it'll be in a month or in 2 months or whatever. But yeah, we've got some other bits and bobs that we're looking at up our sleeve for the summer. So just really excited to get going now. How are you going to get yourself into a place where you are really focused on one thing? Do you have that one thing at the moment?
I don't have that one thing. No. But
do you want that one thing?
I think it'd be nice to have one focal thing. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's necessary to have. I mean, we're talking at the moment around, are we stretching ourselves too thin and taking on I think if you add it up, you've got about 8 different money-making or potentially money-making things.
Opportunities.
That we're working on. And it's like, are we just trying to tackle way too much, or would it be massively improved if even we did one thing between both of us and that was all we did is one thing? So... I think it would be good to have one focal thing, yeah. But I like not putting all eggs in one basket. Uh-huh. So, for years and years, the only way that I earned money was from a salary, mm-hmm. and that's pretty stable. but it's so nice to have something else going on. Even when I was employed, it was nice to have something else. You know, I used to sell tennis rackets years ago, and it was just amazing being. In fact, it was way more satisfying when my phone pinged because I'd made a sell, literally from eBay. Yeah, the ka-ching on eBay. Then it was, you know, getting my monthly payslip, because there's no fun in getting the monthly payslip. Whereas, you know, a ka-ching from an eBay app is actually quite fun. So I like having multiple streams of, you know, income. I definitely think there will be a time when we will focus. I will and we will focus more towards one thing. And well, I guess the goal is that we set things up so they don't need focus, you know, that they tick over. You try and almost make yourself redundant so that you don't really need to be doing too much. And then you focus on to one big thing.
Okay.
Because what I think I'm doing at the moment is trying loads of things, which I'm happy about, because I haven't found the one thing. However, I think the only way to find it is to try quite a few things. And then I think one will naturally rise to the top, or a new one will come in and that will rise to the top. But I just think for ages, for years, literally years, I tried to find the one thing. And I thought about what the one thing was. And there's the difference. I thought about it and I made notes about it and I thought about it again. I contemplated it. And all the while I was just thinking, like I was imagining this fictitious scenario of what it'd be like to have something, or whether the idea was valid or whether it would be good. It's just a load of thinking. And obviously that doesn't work. So I tried to turn that into action. And now I can say that I've got a lot of things going, and at least some of them can either turn out into complete waste of time failures, you know, loss of money or loss of time, or one might be really good. So, and take off. But the kind of process of trying, just literally starting and trying and having things that you're doing, I think it's amazing how much you learn from that, which then sort of opens a door that you never even expected was there.
Yeah.
You know, I've started some stuff, and then it turns out that went, you know, was not right, but that led me on to something else.
Yeah.
So
or it's introduced you to somebody, or
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's definitely action. That's the key word, is action.
Yeah.
And I'm, you know, really, really still sort of struggling and toying with that now, is take action that every day rather than thinking about stuff. I think a lot, and I think about doing different things, and just need to get out of the habit. And that's what I'm kind of practicing, is getting out of the habit of doing that and taking action and trying it.
Yeah.
The more you do that, it just opens up stuff. I'm trying to think of a good example here. So a good example is this podcast. Now, I've sort of feel like, you know, we've got a bit of a story to tell, and that we could potentially benefit some people with our thinking, and really just share our journey to see if that resonates with anyone, and we can learn from the process. So I started blogging. You know, I didn't immediately think of doing a podcast. I started blogging, and it was only in a short space of time I decided to take action. You know, I've always kind of thought, I've done a few posts before, and they were sort of moderately not successful. They were okay. But I decided that I was going to do some blogging. So I did a couple of articles, and I got a bit, they weren't like, you know, massive, but they got more traction than I thought. And they opened up some interesting conversations. Some people that I used to work with or had seen once whilst at my previous employer back in retail, we just started having a random chat about something that I was blogging about. And it was just interesting. And the process of doing that allowed me to realize actually, do I even read blogs? And the answer is no. I don't read many blogs. I haven't got time to read that many blogs. And so if I haven't got time to read many blogs, then a lot of other people also haven't. So I thought, okay, well, what about a different medium? What about audio? I love podcasts. And so it's led us on to this. It's led us on to trying this. If I never tried and just did that blog, if I just imagined what it was like to write a blog, and imagine having a whole network or a website full of blog posts, then I would never have started a podcast.
Yeah.
So.
And we were saying yesterday, weren't we, about, it was only like 2 weeks ago when we were sat in Australia, 3 weeks ago, when the idea of the podcast came to the forefront for you predominantly because you preferred to chat than write.
Yeah.
And listening back to some of those recordings and how you sound and how comfortable you feel in comparison to now and what you've learned in terms of the production of the whole thing, and
it's crazy, in weeks.
And the passion for it has grown because you can take the skills that you've learned when you were DJing and producing, and begin to build back up that knowledge.
Yeah, do you know what? You're so true there about the passion. Like, I've searched and still do now for like, okay, what is your passion? What do you want to do? What is your passion?
Yeah.
But what I've really, really found is that, one, it's still hard for me to answer that. What is my passion? And to build a business around my passion, very difficult. But what's been interesting is that once I've started something and got some traction, you start to develop a passion that you didn't even think was there.
Yeah.
So like, my dad has always been in property and invested in property and has a reasonable property portfolio, which allowed him to retire early. But I never gave a shit.
Yeah, I mean, for years and years, when you were on this like ongoing journey of questioning, because you have thought this way for as long as we've been together.
Finding your passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like a number of times it's been like, well, why don't you get familiar with what your dad's doing?
Yeah, and I just didn't care. And my dad has tried to show me. He's like, oh, Ross, look, I'm going to see this place I've got. Do you want to come with me? This is when I was younger. And I was just like, no, I don't. I just really didn't. I did not see at all that I had a passion for properties. Like, I just did not have a passion.
Yeah.
Yet I got into it because I started realizing that it was a good investment decision. And then when I started researching more and more, it started building in my head this sort of like visualization of me having a property. Mm-hmm. Got the first property, and then just started getting more interested in it. It's almost like the wheels started turning. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I started going on viewings of flats that I couldn't buy or didn't have the money to buy, but I'm interested to see the market.
Yeah.
And the passion was growing. And now I walk around streets and look at buildings. I never did that. I never cared. It just was blank to me.
Still can't change a light bulb, mind.
Yeah, well, I'm not interested in the DIY aspect of it. That's a different story. But so it's amazing how the passion grows when you start.
Yeah.
When you start, you just get into it.
Hate going to the gym or hate running, and then they start, and then all of a sudden
turn into gym freaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is starting. That's by far the hardest part. My biggest challenge is starting.
Yeah, getting motivated.
And coming back to this podcast, like, started getting interested because I thought of a different medium from the blog. Then we decided to lay down one recording, and like you said, it was awful. Like, we fell to shit in front of the mic. Then
not you and me.
I'm
did. Thinking about going all the way back to there, and even progressing from last week.
But I'm just talking. Short term.
Yeah.
Then I thought, okay, now we've got some audio. How do we put this together? And I started going back into. You mentioned like my DJ and producing stuff. I've DJed for years now, and I've played around with making music, and I've released some very, very average songs, which I like more than others. And I just suddenly thought, okay, so this podcast can now be how I want it. So that maybe include music. And just then got more and more interested because I'm now putting music and using all of those sort of skills that I learned myself whilst making tracks and putting it on the podcast. So my passion is now growing to the point where, it's just sort of reinforcing the vision, and it's just growing and developing. And, this is like the very early stages. But I feel like that's how a lot of things grow. So coming right back to what you say around, will there ever be one thing? I think just start has been key for me. I'm happy that I've got a lot of things going. I definitely am on a process to whittle down and find out what the focal one is. I think it's good to have a focal one. If I can have one where I spend 70% of my time, that would be good, because I know that I can really put in a lot of effort into that. Spreading my time 20% across 5 things, that's just inefficient. I'm not going to make a dent. I'm not going to make a dent in anything. But so I can just see which one takes my fancy. It's nice to have a few things out there. The knowledge of that is quite nice, and strangely feels like overcoming a bit of a hurdle just in having things out there. So my advice for anyone would be to start just doing anything.
So getting results as a startup then, it's quite difficult at the beginning to feel like you're getting traction.
Yeah.
What have you been thinking about that of late?
Well, I think it's, we've been reminding ourselves that obviously when you're starting a business, if you've got a brand new idea and you're trying to get it off the ground, that is like very, very hard work. Yeah. Of course. But also, it's difficult to get results straight away. There is absolutely no such thing as an overnight success. And I think it's just important to remember that you should not be fixated on your output at the start, because it just doesn't match your input, does it? Well,
I'm not sure it shouldn't be fixated on your output. It's understanding maybe that there's so many different variations of output.
Yeah, it's what you measure.
Yeah, exactly. Because typically you think about how much cash I'm bringing in or how many views I've had, but there is so many different things to take into consideration when you're starting out, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think the key thing is like testing.
Yeah.
I think your focus should be on producing sort of mini tests, and each one tests a different theory that you have. And what you're measuring is how quickly you get through those tests. Because if you're launching a brand new business and you don't quite know who your end user is, you've got an idea, but you haven't got a full defined user, because at the end of the day, it's just theory until they actually see it. You should be aiming to produce a set of tests and target different or slightly different types of people, with the sole end game of getting as much feedback as possible to kind of hone in on who that is.
Yeah, I even think even more granularly than that, though, that you can actually have a lot of output by just learning things yourself. I think, the amount of stuff that you have to sit and learn. I had to put a YouTube video up for TETTA so that the girls could learn how we make our tassels, because I just think it's a really quick and easy way, and you don't need any tools to do it apart from some scissors. And I've never ever done that before, not properly. Adding channel art and things like that. It was hilarious. And at the end of the day, I ended up having having a video that I'd edited from 2 different cameras to show two different shots of my fingers and making the tassels and me kind of welcoming the girls into the group and stuff. So, and I think it's had 24 views, but it was only sent to a couple of girls. Now, that did take a couple of hours because I had to learn every single thing as I went along. So it doesn't feel like Is that smart working? I don't know. But I now know how to do those things, and I will do it a lot quicker, a little bit further along, and then hopefully we'll have someone that does that for us when the business is bigger.
I totally agree. The process of going through that, certainly when you're getting off the ground, you have to understand that it's going to take a hell of a lot of time. And sometimes, we battle with, is this taking too long?
Yeah, definitely.
And the kind of the challenge is get things out quickly and test quick. And it is frustrating, if you want to get something out, but it's taking you a long time to do what seems like quite a simple task.
Simple
like you
for
said,
other people.
Like you said, is editing a video.
Yeah.
But actually, that first time in doing it, the skills you learn there, next time it just gets quicker and quicker. And as you said, hopefully the end game is that you just then you employ people to do that for you.
So I've had to kind of massively shift my perception of what output and like valuable output means. It isn't just sales, and it isn't results. It's like output within myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it needs to be, it can't be confused with activity. You cannot measure output on activity, because that's like a flawed plan.
What do you mean?
Because if all of a sudden you are measuring how well you've done in a certain week based on the amount of things you've done.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that.
Do you know what I mean?
That.
So,
yeah,
I created a video and I did this and I did that and I got a group together.
I think to an extent it's the amount of new things that you've done.
Well, as long as they are in a certain direction, or you're learning skills. If you're doing, for example, what just in your comfort zone, and maybe you're avoiding doing something difficult, then obviously that's not a productive use of time. So I definitely think it needs to be smart. And that's why I think at the start, you need to kind of actually write down like a set of theories, a set of goals that you want to test, which is different to you in your video example, because that's just you learning. But if you're looking at, if you're trying to measure the output based on whether people are taking to your new idea, you need to set yourself a few hypotheses that you think they're going to respond to, and then see how quickly you get through those.
Have you got an example of when you've done that with Pave? Or
Well, no, I think at the moment the key one for us is our sort of new travel startup, Staylance.
Yeah.
So essentially, and we haven't actually explained the concept yet, but it's it basically allows you to travel the world and stay at accommodation in people's homes in exchange for your time and a talent that you have. So you could have a talent for yoga, and you could go to another country, stay at someone's house for a week, teach them yoga for 3 days of that week.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a mutual exchange where the host gets a benefit and you obviously get the sort of freedom of travel. But for that, we're launching it at the moment, and we are testing a few different audience sort of types that we think would take to that idea.
Yeah, because we don't know. My gut feeling is that it will be the digital nomad community, those freelancers, maybe marketing managers that want to holiday differently, and know a few crucial things that would be massive to a small business, like setting up paid advertising or redoing a landing page. I think about some of the dodgy websites we've been on in Bali for restaurants and stuff. Those restaurants all have small holdings outside that have homes and homestays. What if you could come to Bali for 10 days, mock up a little website, which you might enjoy doing anyway, and your accommodation is free. You've made that connection. But so I kind of feel like the freelancer professional community is the number one, but then we don't know whether it's people that can teach a language or have those more creative skills like music or sport.
Exactly. So using the kind of theory that we're talking about here is you start with that thought. You start thinking, okay, it's going to be this sort of freelancer professional audience, and then you need a way to quickly test that and understand if they actually bite, really, if they are interested. Because if we I guess a traditional way of launching a business would be to put all your eggs in that one basket, decide to go live, put, 6 months into building a product and then go live with that. But the way kind of more lean startup model would be, which is what we're doing at the moment, is around actually trying to learn quickly rather than the goal being our website is now live. The goal is actually how many tests have we done to that audience to see whether they understand and are interested in that concept.
And then just gradually build on those learnings as you develop the product.
Yeah. Well, you just constantly do it.
Yeah.
Depending
There's
on
never
whatever
kind
stage
of an
you're
end
at.
game, is there? Yeah. So
I'd say for anyone that's trying to get a business off the ground, a book I could recommend is The Lean Startup. Absolutely essential, I think, for this to go a bit deeper on what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And just focus on validated learning and testing your prior thoughts on your marketplace and your product and everything, really, rather than thinking and theorizing about your idea and then just going ahead with that. It's all about testing. It's all about being agile. It's all about understanding from the market exactly what they want and constantly changing and moving on that.
So one of the great ways that we tested whether the idea of TETTA was good was two things, really. First of all, chucked a load of pictures into my personal network on social media to see what the results were. And people started to come back saying, hey, where did you get this T-shirt from?
Yeah, that's good.
Which was like a real granular test. And then we popped it on to Kickstarter. So we launched a Kickstarter campaign. We had 1 month to raise 10k. We smashed that in 2 weeks. So that was validation, if anything.
And just on the pictures, though, how did you get the pictures?
So I literally made mock-up prototypes.
Okay.
Like real dodgy. Well, they weren't dodgy, but they weren't by any means customer ready.
Yeah.
It was like an old T-shirt that I had that I stitched some dodgy loose tassels on and just took some pics. And
I think that's exactly it, though, isn't it? It's like it's prototype thinking
Yeah.
rather than thinking that it has to be the final product.
yeah, definitely.
Did you find that quite uncomfortable to put that out because it wasn't right, though? Because that can be difficult.
No, not really, because I don't know why. No, not at all.
No?
No.
You didn't think that it wasn't quite ready, wasn't quite your vision?
No, because I didn't really have a full-fledged plan. I just thought, this looks cool. My theory was that tits were very in fashion, that I had some tassels, and how great it would be if we could get this community of girls together to do something for good by making the tassels, which go on the T-shirts.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know whether people were interested, because, I mean, my fashion sense and tastes might be completely out of kilter with what's everybody else's. So I just wanted to see who came back to me, to see what types of people were interested. And that kind of gave me a good idea of where it sat in the marketplace in regards to which of my friends liked it.
Yeah.
And then, we decided to jump onto Kickstarter because we needed some cash. But also, if the masses that didn't have an affinity with me or Georgia didn't like it, then we knew it wasn't a goer. But it was picked up by a couple of cool people, and then it just really snowballed. So yeah.
And when I don't know if it was as you were going through Kickstarter or after the Kickstarter was complete.
Yeah.
You produced some more visuals, didn't you? And it's probably worth just talking through that, because I think that's a great example of how you can get your idea out there.
Yeah. So the way that TETTA, or from the very start to now, we've had to be really crafty and creative with TETTA, because we don't actually have a product. We didn't have a brand. We didn't have anything. All we knew is that we needed to create this community of people. So I worked through one of my friends, Sophie, who is doing her PhD at Manchester Uni. She asked if I could be a case study for one of her digital marketing groups. So we took TETTA in and spoke to the guys, and we basically used all of the talents within anybody that knew about TETTA to mock up some kind of like illustrations. So we had they were obviously illustrations, so it was more of a design direction than we haven't got the product, so we're going to have to illustrate tassels on t-shirts. So we took some really stereotypical Instagram pictures, girls in the street or flat lays, and one of the girls basically put over the top different coloured tassels, and we seeded that out on us. So, yeah, basically Photoshop them on. But they aren't pictures of actual tassels. It's almost like she's used paint to draw them on.
Right.
So you just get the gist, basically.
Yeah.
So we used that to seed out onto social, and it just went mad. People loved it.
Yeah.
So we've had to be really crafty and use every single person and skill that we had around us, because of course we didn't have any cash either until we finished the Kickstarter. So it was a bit of a chicken or egg problem. But we learnt loads.
Yeah, because I bet there's a lot of people that think they want to get something out there. They've got a new idea, but they feel like it's a hell of a lot of effort to get the full thing finished. And also, one of the biggest sort of hurdles people face is money.
Yeah.
I think I haven't got the money.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Well, yeah. Well, some are more easy, I think. Some startups are more easy to kind of mock up and prototype than others. But yeah, like using crafty ways like Photoshop, literally just getting like when I worked back in the app industry, the emphasis that we put on mocking up a prototype, it's just that there are so many examples that I've come across where people spend hundreds of thousands of pounds and build apps and then they launch it to the market. Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, it's just madness, because they haven't validated any learning. They haven't tested at all who their marketplace is. They've just theorized about who they think it is. They've gone all in, like literally gone all in, spent all this money, all this time, this effort, and then they've just flopped.
Yeah.
And you kind of could have done that. You could have manufactured 1,000 different t-shirts, put the tassels on.
Yeah.
You could have spent a lot of money, a lot of time before you even launched it.
Yeah. And I don't actually think you even need to have a prototype designed. You might be creating a brand new fake tan, for example, or a brand new car. There's no way you're going to manufacture that. But what you can share is your vision and the tone of voice. You don't even need to have your brand aesthetically correct. I mean, if you go back and look at some of the TETTA stuff, we've got some amazing new branding coming now. But it was like a print screen from the Word that I typed on Word that I'd used for the promotion.
Yeah.
So, and it was more about tapping into the audience that we thought was there. I mean, we're nearly on about 2,000 followers. So, from a perception point of view, it's not massive, but every single one of those people are so incredibly engaged. It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
The view counts that we get on our stories, and whenever we post any update, we get, it just blows my mind. So I think that is almost more important to have confidence in the voice of the brand and really convey that strongly.
And also I think it comes back to just starting.
Yeah, and just starting, yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be, you almost need a general direction of where you want to go, and then just start.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. I mean, there have been points where everything seemed so against us, but it's fine. You'll get there in the end. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please keep your feedback coming in. We've loved hearing it so far. If you'd like to follow us visually, please jump over onto our Instagram. We give daily updates on our story, and we've got some really nice pictures of landscapes and things that we've been up to in our feed over the last couple of weeks. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, please head over to iTunes to leave us a review. It means the world. So once again, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.